Hello everyone, Lawrence here from Unicorn Reviews, and today we're looking at Synology's first router, the RT1900ac. Right then, quick overview. The box itself, fairly simple. It's brown, it has a colored sticker on it. The router itself, also very simple. It's just black plastic. On top of it you have the Synology logo. There are LEDs to indicate power, 2.4 GHz active, 5 GHz active if the WAN is active, and if the 4 LAN ports are active, there's also a little RT1900ac name on the top. On the right side of the router though, that's where it kind of gets interesting. So we have a USB 3.0 port for all the awesomeness that I'll talk about later. There's also an SD card slot, which is very unusual for a router, as well as a vent hole. Now on the front of the unit there is an eject button. This won't shoot you out of your desk chair or anything silly like that. This is to safely remove the USB connected device, whatever you decide to connect to it. On the left is a WPS button, as well as a Wi-Fi on or off switch, so you can easily turn off the Wi-Fi for trolling your kids or your parents, whatever. Now on the back of the device there is a power button, as well as the power input of course, and 5 gigabit ports. One of them is the WAN port. However, this router does not have hardware level network address translation, and so your transfer speeds between WAN devices and LAN devices will only get up to about 560 megabytes a second. On the bottom of the device there's more venting. There's a sticker showing you the basic password and SSID, that sort of stuff, as well as some hooks to mount it on a wall or on the ceiling, and a reset button, which is very awkward to access. There are also 2 removable feet so that the bottom of the router can breathe a bit easier. The 3 antennas at the back are of course also user removable and replaceable. This is the 1900ac router. Basically what that means is you have simultaneous 2.4 and 5 GHz AC, N, G, B, and even A for up to 1900 megabits a second, which you'll of course never get, but more about that in our testing. It has some advanced networking capabilities like beamforming, bandwidth control, DNS-based web filter, that sort of stuff. And it also has a lot of popular storage and server functions like FTP printer. You can hook it up to media, but more about that later, because this thing is not just a router. Setting up the router is really easy. You just plug in the antennas, choose if you want to put it vertically or horizontally, connect it to your ISP, and then you just download an app to control and set it up from your smartphone. And if you want to, you can also do it from a web browser. Basically any web browser will work. The initial setup couldn't be easier. You simply go to router.synology or synology.com and you just make your first account if this is the first time setting it up. So you just enter your username, your password, that sort of stuff. After that you have to set up your Wi-Fi if you decide to use Wi-Fi, which obviously you will decide to use. You just enter the SSID and the passwords, and that too will be set up. Synology also asks you for the country you live in to choose the right band to use. However, you can just set it to another country illegally, as they even say. You can then say what sort of mode you wanted to use it in. I decide to use it in wireless AP mode, and you can set up the type of internet connection. This really couldn't be easier. It's just pressing next all the time. After that, it'll take some time to set up, and I have to say these setup times are quite long, especially after updates, but more about that later. Also, resets take forever, but I guess you don't have to do that every day or so, so it's not a big issue. When all of that is done, you simply restart your PC or just reset your network adapter and log into the SRM software that's very easily accessible through the browser on router.synology.com. Right then, so after the initial setup, it actually detects your system's language and applies that to the interface. So right now it's still in Dutch. It'll go to English in a bit. I'll change it. This language preference is something you can set. If you go to the top right, go to options, and then display language, you can choose to set that to whatever you want. Alright, so let's dive into the software. You go to Network Center. There you can see your Wi-Fi working. You can look at a device list of all connected devices, and of course have a little look at CPU and memory usage. Very handy. Now you can also set your wireless settings, so just set everything there. You have advanced options too. To enter those advanced options, you just click advanced, and you can set all these things. So channel width, preambles, PMF, regulatory mode, transmit power is set to high, obviously to annoy the neighbors. And you can even set a schedule for which band has to be on, which is, I guess, very handy. Something you have to check is the interference reduction. Basically, it'll mess around with the USB speeds to reduce interference, which is a pretty weird thing. I always turn off WPS as well because it's basically just a security hazard, and it's very easy to do though. You can set up 2 guest networks here, very handy to have. I don't really ever use guest networks, but the option is there, and you can even put a MAC filter right on your router. If you have the router set to an actual router mode, you have parental controls, you have traffic controls, you can set up a whole lot of stuff really, like your web filters, which websites are accessible, which aren't. You can of course also monitor the internet usage instead of just the local network usage. If you now go to internet mode in the router mode, you can do port forwarding, quick connect, DDNS, port triggering, DMZ, so your demilitarized zone, your IPv6 tunneling, and you can even plug in a 3G or 4G dongle to use it remotely. You can of course do static routing, you can reserve DHCP IP addresses, all that sort of cool high-end stuff that people don't really ever use, but it's just really cool that we have it. Security is really big with this router, so you can do an awful lot of stuff. You can auto block after failed logins, also check certificates, give away certificates if you use this one as a server. You can get email certificate notifications, and this is really handy because it will also just send you text messages to your phone. Really handy. I wish every single router out there has it, because sometimes you're not connected to the internet and you really just need that message right away if you're installing this router elsewhere, for example. Now, updating, very important, but there's just a massive waiting time. So basically you look for a new update, you install it, and then it takes about 10 minutes. Actually, it took 6 minutes for me to do the update, and that's not including the downloading. So 10 minutes is basically how long it will take to update this router, and it was not even changing that many things. So as I said before, restarts or applying changes take very long, and updating the software takes even longer, which I guess is one of the negatives with this router. Once you have finally completed the update though, there is more stuff to go over. So you have, for example, the SRM settings, so the Synology remote stuff management. You can basically control this router from anywhere in the world just by setting up remote access, which is great if you want to set this router up with your grandparents or with your parents if they're not that tech savvy. Really handy that you can do it. Even if you're an IT professional and you use this one and its guest networks to install this router in some business, you can do that as well. You can as I said, you can make schedules for the Wi-Fi. You can do the same for the LEDs, and the interface is really simple. You just drag it on a little calendar and it'll all work fine. I really like this sort of interface. Now, something more and more routers come with these days are networking tools like ping and traceroute, but this one also has wake on LAN, so you can just set up a schedule for when you want to wake a certain device on LAN. Another really handy thing is the log center, where you can basically monitor your router's performance, but you can also see what changed. You can send those logs to custom servers, you can store the logs. These notifications, as I said, you can get them by text message, but also through email. Very handy. You can set up a Synology account, so you can get emails whenever something new happens with Synology products. There's the support center, which is a really handy way to contact their support if it were actually working. I wish I could contact support about the support center not working, but I can't. And then there's Security Advisor. This will basically say, okay, is this for home use? Is this for professional use? And then it will scan your security settings for you and make sure that everything is nice and secure. As I said, Synology is pretty big on security here, and you will see when a setting is a bit wrong, you know, auto block being disabled in my case, that sort of stuff. You can check all that. And then there's also the package center. You can think about this as being the app store, the Play Store for your router. Now, sadly, at the moment, there are only 5 apps available, and so I decided to install all of them at the same time. I just wish that there were more apps available. Now, this whole server setup stuff, this is where this router really shines, because this is not just a router. It's a router made by a NAS company. And so you have all these servers. You can set it up as a download server. You can set it up as a media server. There is so many things that you can do with this one. There are a bunch of apps available for downloading on your smartphones. great to have. And then, let's talk a bit about the file sharing first. So this basically works as a normal NAS. You just plug in a USB hard drive. Believe it or not, I don't actually have one of those. So I had to grab an 8-year-old mini Samsung hard drive. So I was really bottlenecked by that because I put everything in the cloud already. So I don't really have USB hard drives laying around. Now this download station, it's very handy. You just set a destination folder. Obviously, how can you download if you don't have a destination? And then you just add what you want to download, just a URL for if you have a big file that you don't want taking ages on your computer to download, you can just do that over the router in this really handy software. I really like all the software features that this router has. Now, as I said, I don't really have any USB hard drives, USB 3.0 hard drives laying around, so I was limited to about 20 megabytes a second on my crappy old Samsung external drive. And so even from within that browser or within the apps that Synology provides, you can just check out some of your music, some of your videos, your photos. They will just load in the web browser or in the app, which is just so nice to have because I haven't really had another router that does this so flawlessly, so quickly as this one does. This is just a massive selling point, just the pure software and the quality of the software on this router. Now, as I said, Synology is mostly a NAS company, not a router company. And so let's have a little look at all of our storage thing. Basically, you can make accounts like you can on a NAS, and you can give every account specific permissions. You can give them no access at all, read access only, or read and write access, all through a very, very easy to use interface. Great for basically anyone who needs to buy a new router and a new NAS, but you're not quite sure of the NAS. This product is basically perfect for you because it's a basic NAS that does everything it does very well. With the app support that you can install on this, it can get really extensive in the future. If you want to know how I did the Wi-Fi testing, there's the card in the top right corner. So this router performs really well. However, just look at upload speeds at close range. It's horrible. It didn't work at all. I am in talks with Synology at the moment, but I had a deadline for this video, so I have to put that video up there. If I get better testing results after this, I will put them in the description below, so make sure to read the description, guys. So at 1 meter, upload speeds are rubbish. Download speeds are on par, if not better, than other routers that I've tested. Moving away a bit further, it actually performs really well. So now that we're in the living room, it has the highest download speeds for small files. It has really good upload speeds for those small files. Again, really high downloads and upload speeds for the large files, which makes me think that the 1 meter test was just a bit of an issue there, that something went wrong somewhere. However, I haven't been able to find out what that was yet. Moving up a story now with a floor in between. Again, it's outperforming the Nighthawk in most of the tests. Now moving outside of the house, again, low upload speeds. And I have no idea why that is, because in the download speeds, it's actually doing really, really well. Now for our extreme range test, all the results are very close together because we're not really getting very high speeds anyway. So it outperforms even the ASUS one in downloading, but then it falls behind on uploading again. So I guess for a conclusion on the wireless transfer performance with this router, it's really good at medium range, but it kind of falls off if you go extremely far away with this, like the garden house test that is at 30 or 40 meters away from the router in a different house. The 1 meter test was also rubbish, but everything at mid-range or medium short, medium long range, it does really well. And so I think there are some software optimizations that Synology has to do to make sure that it also works very well with uploads, because that's where it kind of falls behind the competition a little bit. So conclusion time, I think Synology RT1900ac is a great router at the €150 price point it comes at. It's faster than the Nighthawk. It has way more software features than any router I've ever tested or am even aware of existing. So that's really great. However, it is let down a little bit by the upload speeds and the fact that it doesn't have hardware level network address translating. But that is not a big issue if you're not on some sort of gigabit ISP, which basically no one is on anyway. So I'm really looking forward to more updates in the SRM software and the firmware for this router to hopefully get better uploading speeds, and maybe even look forward to a version 2 of this with hardware level NAT. So guys, if you like the video, there's always the like button. If you didn't like the video, there's the dislike button, and also the subscribe button, because someday I will make a video you do like, and then you'll get an update for free on a Tuesday or a Friday, whenever that glorious moment may be. If you have any questions about this router or this video or the channel in general, they go below in the comment area. And if you want to follow me some more, there's always Twitter, there's Facebook, and if you want to support the channel, get me better camera gear like lenses and stuff, there's a Patreon page where you can support the channel. For now though, thank you very much for watching.